Good morning, everyone. On account of some network issues, there was some delay. So, yesterday we started with the place of supply provisions. We completed place of supply of goods. We are ready to start place of supply of services. As per today's schedule, we are supposed to complete TDS, TCS, and also tax invoice, debit and credit note chapter. Those two chapters are relatively small chapters. Therefore, we would be able to complete the place of supply chapter as well as those two chapters, hopefully. Practice problems, I shared with you. There was some issues in broadcast as well, sending messages through broadcast as well. I will try to send it by today. So just to recap, so we started with place of supply. We understood that place of supply is critical because to identify a supply to be an intrastate or interstate supply, two components are essential. One is the location of the supplier. Second is the place of supply. If the location of the supplier and place of supply are in two different states, then it is deemed to be an interstate supply. In other cases, it is deemed to be an intrastate supply. That is the significance of place of supply. We started with place of supply of goods, which is there under section 10 of ICAI Act. We started with 10(1)(a), where supply involved movement of goods. In that case, place of supply was at that point in time when the goods or when the supply of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. And we saw two examples where supply terminated at supply's place itself and supply terminated at the premise of recipient. Then we moved on to clause B, which talked about bill to ship to transaction. In a bill to ship to transaction, there are three parties involved. One is called as a third person, second is a supplier, third is a recipient. There are two supplies per se involved in the bill to ship to transaction. One supply between the third party and the supplier. Second supply between the third party and the recipient. So this clause B, say 10(1)(b) talks only about that leg of transaction between the supplier and the third party. For the sale transaction between the third party and the supplier, the place of supply will be the principal place of business of third person, and it is also deemed that principal, that is the third person, has received the goods. I explained the logic of that provision as well. Then we moved on to 10(1)(c), which talked about a case where supply does not involve movement of goods, where we saw it will be the location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient and buyback. Other one is a case of a purchase of a building along with furniture and fixtures. Then 10(1)(d) at site. In such cases, the place of assembly and installation will be the place of supply. The last one that we saw was clause E, where the goods are supplied on board a conveyance. It will be the location at which such goods are taken on board. As I told you, whatever comes after the place of supply, that is in each clause that we see, whatever language that is used after the place of supply, you have to reproduce exactly, because these are all asked in 4 to 5 marks. So therefore, they would certainly expect you the exact reproduction of the language. I gave one illustration at the end. I hope you have solved it. If you have any doubts, you can probably ask me. We also completed section 11, which basically talks about place of supply in case of import of goods and export of goods. We understood the concept of import, where location of the so place of supply will be the location of the importer, because importer is consuming the goods. And in case of export of goods, we saw that location outside India will be place of supply. We will now start with section 12, which talks about place of supply of services. After completing 12, we will move on to section 13, which is place of supply of services in case where the location of recipient or supplier is outside India. Let us start. Section 12. See the heading first. Let me share the notes. So, if you look at the heading of section 12, again the section 12 is ICAI Act. It says place of supply of services where the location of recipient is in India. So please understand, place of supply of services under section 12 will be applicable only if the supplier as well as the recipient is located in India. Therefore, if either the supplier is located outside India or the recipient is located outside India, section 12 will not be applicable. This is point number 1. Let us read. The provisions of this section shall apply to determine the place of supply of services where the location of the supply of services and the location of the recipient of services is in India. So therefore, cumulative condition, supplier and recipient in India. The place of supply of services except the services specified in subsection 3 to 14. So it says subsection 2 is applicable only except the services specified in 3 to 14, which means subsection 2 is a residuary provision. Subsection 2 will be applicable only when your services are not covered under subsection 3 to 14. Before that, I will tell you two things. As I initially, as an introduction, told you that place of supply provisions are generally formulated in order to standardize the place of consumption for certain services. We already saw that it is not at all practically possible to identify the exact place of consumption for certain services. Try to read all the provisions, we can conclude two things. One, as far as possible, they would have tried to find out the actual place of consumption. If you look at all the provisions. So logically, if you think for a particular service, what could be the, if not the approximate place of consumption, you will arrive at the answer. Second, and as far as possible, it will be revenue seeking. When I discuss some of the provisions of place of supply. So, with this, let us start with subsection 2. So, subsection 2, as I told, is a residuary clause, it's a general clause. If your services are mentioned under subsection 3 to 14, then that will only be applicable. If that is not mentioned, then subsection 2 is applicable. Let us see. Place of supply of services except the services specified in 3 to 14 made to a registered person shall be the location of such person. Made to any person other than a registered person shall be the location of the recipient where the address on record exists and the location of the supplier of services in other cases. Very simple and straightforward version. It says, I am a supplier. If I am supplying to a registered person, then location of such person, which means your location will be the place of supply. Second, supposing you are not a registered person, there are two options available. It's not an option. Firstly, you have to test the location of the recipient where the address on record exists. You have to see whether you have the address of the recipient. Let us assume, let us take examples based on whoever is joined. Let's say Mahendra Kumar. So myself and Mahendra Kumar enter into contract. I supply services to Mahendra Kumar. Now what happens is Mahendra Kumar in first case is a registered person. He has a GS registration under the law. Now in this case, wherever Mahendra Kumar has registered, that location will be the place of supply. Let us assume Mahendra Kumar has not registered. Then there are two things which I have to see. One, whether I have the address of Mahendra Kumar. If I do have the address of Mahendra Kumar, then whatever address I have, that location will be the place of supply. Supposing I do not have the address of Mahendra Kumar, I don't know Mahendra Kumar at all. Somehow I made some supply of services to him, in which case my own location, from wherever I did my service, that location will be the place of supply. So therefore, 2 points to summarize. Subsection 2 is a residuary provision, which means subsection 3 to 14 are specific provisions. If you are getting covered under 3 to 14, then subsection 2 is not applicable. Number 2, subsection 2 simply says if you make supply to a registered person, registered person's location will be the place of supply. If it is to an unregistered person, and if you have the address on record, then such address will be the place of supply. In all other cases, the location of supplier myself will be the place of supply. I hope you are able to understand it. Let us move on to the next provision, subsection 3. As I told you, according to me, this place of supply chapter, the weightage that they give is according to me overrated, because there is nothing, I would say, conceptual in nature. You have to just memorize. Here are there certain points you have to probably analyze and come to a conclusion. Since in my opinion, since this is only a question of memory, I would request you to completely, if possible, memorize at least the components after place of supply, because the examiner cannot reduce any marks, because you have to see whether this provision is covered under so and so section. If it is covered under so and so section, place of supply shall be the location of so and so. Because the answer there cannot be any deviation. Unlike a question where your perception and the examiner's perception can be different, here the perception cannot be different. Let us move on to subsection 3. The place of supply of services directly in relation to immovable property, including services by architects, interior decorators, surveyors, engineers, and other related experts, or estate agents. Any services provided by way of grant of rights to use immovable property or for carrying out or coordination of construction work. Before going into this provision, I told you two logics for understanding this place of supply provision. Simple logic that I told you, as far as possible, the provisions will be drafted in such a manner that they will actually try to find out a place where the goods or services, not goods, services are actually consumed. If you look at an immovable property service, any service in relation to immovable property, since immovable property is located in one place, all the services should have been consumed in that place. So therefore, whether it is an architectural service or construction service or any other service for that matter, if it is in relation to immovable property, since immovable property will be situated in a particular place, consumption of service should have been happened in that place only. So therefore, logically speaking, the consumption of service happens at the location of the immovable property. So provision also should have been drafted in that way. Let us see whether they have drafted in that particular manner. And the second point that I told you is the revenue seeking. I'll explain you how it is revenue seeking in a moment's time. So firstly, they say directly in relation to immovable property. So what they say is they divide the immovable property services into two. One, direct services. What could be direct services? Architect. I want to construct a property. I consult an architect as to how the structure of property should look, etc. Interior decorators. So I have constructed the removed property. Interior wise, I want to do lot of modification. Surveyor, before constructing, certainly he will come and see whether compliance with law is there. Engineer, obviously. And other related experts are estate agents. Other related experts can be a lawyer who can be consulted whether in this particular place removed property can be constructed. Can this be a jointly held property? What will be the legal implications? So other related experts are estate agents. Any service provided by way of grant of rights to use immovable property or for carrying out or coordination of construction. So I give a right to use my immovable property. Let's say I give the right to use immovable property in terms of parking. You can use my immovable property for parking purposes. So those kind of services. All these are directly in relation to immovable property. That person uses immovable property or that person provides some services on that immovable property. This is category A. I have not come to the place of supply. I have just explained you what is getting covered under clause A. Let us move on. Next, B. By way of lodging accommodation, by a hotel, inn, guest house, homestay, club, or campsite, by whatever name called, and including a houseboat or any other vessel. So, first they started immovable property directly. Second, hotel also is somewhat in relation to immovable property. I go to a hotel, hotel itself is an immovable property. So therefore, this also is a service in relation to immovable property, lodging accommodation. So it can be accommodation can be in any form, in guest house, homestay, club or campsite, by whatever name called. That is also getting covered under subsection 3. Next, what is covered? By way of accommodation in any immovable property for organizing any marriage or reception or matters related thereto, official, social, cultural, religious, or business function, including services provided in relation to such function and such property. Very simple. Any event that happens in a Kalyana Mandapam, or for that matter, any other place where any religious activities performed, social activities performed, official activities performed, all these activities will be getting covered under subsection 3. D. Any services ancillary to the services referred to in clause A, B, and C. Okay, so therefore, with this clause D, they are completing what are the services that are covered under this particular subsection, and then they are saying what's the place of supply. Shall be, place of supply shall be the location at which the immovable property or boat or vessel, as the case may be, is located or intended to be located. So what they say is, for all the services A, B, C, D, the place of supply shall be the location at which the immovable property or boat or vessel, as the case may be, is located or intended to be located. Logically, we saw for all the services, consumption happens only at that immovable property. Let's say a marriage is happening. So, if I'm paying rent to for marriage hall, certainly the consumption of that service happens only in that hall. So, therefore, it is logical to say location of immovable property. Likewise, any construction that happens, location of immovable property, architecture services. So, therefore, logically also, if one looks at the consumption of service also happens at the location of immovable property. Therefore, the law also is recognizing that fact and says that all the services, any service, in fact, D says any services ancillary to the services to A, B, C. So therefore, incidental or ancillary to the services in relation to A, B, and C, the place of supply shall be the location of immovable property. And one more important point to be noted here is, it does not stop with that. The place of supply shall be the location at which the immovable property is located or intended to be located. So please understand, I have not even started the construction of immovable property, but I have a plan that I will construct the immovable property in Mumbai. So the property is intended to be located in Mumbai. Therefore, the place of supply will be the location of Mumbai. So therefore, it is not the actual construction or actual existence of an immovable property that matters. Even if there is no immovable property as of now, but there will be an immovable property which is intended to be constructed in future, that also will be covered under this subsection. I hope everyone is able to follow this point. Let us move on to the cover. So, provided that if the location of immovable property or boat or vessel is located or intended to be located outside India, place of supply shall be the location of the recipient. This is what I told you. Revenue seeking. You see, logically speaking, in case of immovable property services, the place of supply is always the location of, logically speaking, it should always be the location of immovable property. But it says when the property is located outside India, then the place of supply shall be the location of the recipient. Let us say I have a property in United States. Now, what I do is I want to construct a property or some form of a structure in that land that I own. Now, for the land, sorry, for the immovable property that I construct on that land, they say the location of, sorry, place of supply is not United States of America, which is where the property is located, but it will be the location of the recipient. Who is the recipient? Myself is the recipient. I am only receiving the services. The place of supply will be India. So therefore, how this is revenue seeking, I'll tell you, because we have not understood the concept of export of services. For this transaction, tax will be charged. Place of supply is in India. Location of supplier, if it is in India, it will be in CDS transaction. If it is outside India, it will be a IGST transaction. I'll tell you how it is revenue seeking. Once we understand export of service concept, you will be able to appreciate this point. So therefore, whenever the property is located outside India, then in that case alone, place of supply will be the location of the recipient. Let us move on. Explanation. Where immovable property or boat or vessel. What is this boat or vessel? You would have seen in boat and all, there is this boat or vessel, there is this concept called where you can stay in the boat itself for a few days. All the setup for a normal house will be there in the boat itself. So purpose of this particular section. Explanation: where the immovable in more than one state or union territory, supply of services shall be treated as made in each of the separate states or union territories in proportion to the value of services separately collected or determined in terms of the contract or arrangement entered into in this regard, or in the absence of. Let's assume a scenario where Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry. Let us say 300 square feet belongs to Pondicherry. Let us say 700 square feet belongs to Tamil Nadu. In this case, the place of supply is normally the location of immovable property. Here, the immovable property is located both in Pondicherry as well as Tamil Nadu. In this case, place of supply is Tamil Nadu or Pondicherry is the question, for which there are some circulars which are given. Broadly, I'll tell you how the circular has been structured. It is structured in accordance with this explanation only. It says in proportion to the value of services separately collected. Let us say totally 1 lakh rupees is collected or 10 lakh rupees is collected for the entire construction services. Divided into two. 700 square feet belongs to Tamil Nadu, 300 square feet belongs to Pondicherry. 10 lakh rupees into 70%, 30% will give you the place of supply for Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry. That is one way of doing it. Suppose you are not able to exactly identify the proportion, right, in terms of contract or an agreement entered into, then probably you can have your own basis you're going to do. So therefore, in relation to there are some circulars. I share those circulars. It will be on those lines only. It will be logical only. They would have tried to bifurcate the total value of construction services into the logical sequence. That is, as I told you, if it is 700 square feet, 300 square feet, they will divide it based on square feet or some other logical basis. So therefore, whenever the property is located in more than one state, then you have to calculate the place of supply based on the proportion of the value of services rendered in each places. So with this, we are done with subsection 3, that is immovable property services. Let us now move on to subsection 4. So I given examples for subsection 3. Design services pertaining to hotel being constructed in Delhi. Architect is from Mumbai. Client is in Hyderabad. So obviously, place of supply is location of immovable property, therefore Delhi. What happens in a case where services are rendered in relation to immovable property yet to be constructed? Place of supply will be the place where property is intended to be located, because we have seen place of supply is the place where property is located or intended to be located. Next, subsection 4. Subsection 4 we have already seen in some place. The place of supply of restaurant and catering services, personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment, healthcare service, including cosmetic and plastic surgery, shall be the location where services are actually performed. Again, look at logically all these services where it will be consumed. Restaurant services, when I go and consume food, in that place only services are consumed. Catering services, same. Personal grooming, fitness, beauty treatment. So these are all services. In respect of all these services, the consumption happens at the place where the services are actually performed. Some beauty treatment is performed. In that place only, services are consumed. So therefore, logically also, the consumption is the place where the services are performed. That is why the law has recognized that, and the place of supply shall be the location where the services are actually performed. So if you could recollect, the same list of services we saw somewhere. We saw this in section 17.5, blocked credit, where we saw certain services for which credit cannot be taken. In that we saw outdoor catering, your beauty treatment, healthcare services, etc. So therefore, all those services for 17.5 services, the place of supply will be the location where services are actually performed. So you can link this with section 17 subsection 5 in ILC. So I've given an example. A person from Chennai travels to Bangalore for beauty treatment services. Though a person who is in Chennai is traveling to Bangalore, since the place of supply is the place where the services are performed, services in this case will be performed in Bangalore. Therefore, the place of supply will be Karnataka. Next, the place of supply of services in relation to training and performance appraisal shall be the location of such person. To a person other than a registered person shall be the location where the services are actually performed. So please understand, this service of training and performance appraisal is not an easy service where consumption, place of consumption can be identified. Let us say, let us take this particular example, right? So it can be called as training services. Now in this case, you might see this particular YouTube video from Chennai or Andhra Pradesh or Karnataka. Now, from the perspective of the person who is drafting the law, how will you visualize whether a particular person is consuming the services from a particular state or not? So therefore, whenever the practical scenario is or the place of supply is extremely difficult to identify practically, they go with this particular general provision where it is provided to a registered person shall be the location of such person. They assume that whenever it is services are always consumed in that location only. So there are other clauses as well, subsections as well, where this provision will be repeated. That is, place of supply when made to a registered person will be location of such person. In all those scenarios, if you look at, it is extremely difficult for a person to identify the place of supply practically. In the example that I gave, where YouTube live class is going on, I will not be able to identify exactly which person is watching from there, and he might also during the class disconnect. So therefore, we will not know exactly. So in this case, that's why as a general rule, they are saying if you provide training and performance appraisal services to a registered person, location of such person will be the place of supply. If it is provided to an unregistered person, it shall be the location where the services are actually performed. This is also logically correct, I tell you. Let us stick with the same example of your live YouTube class. Let's say 150 people join the class, and I don't have any contact of those 150 people. Now, if they have given to an unregistered person the location of the recipient, how will I identify those persons' location? So therefore, they said, wherever you perform this service, I perform from this place, Chennai, that place will be the place of supply. So therefore, practically, if you visualize a scenario of a service where it can be consumed, if you are able to actually identify the consumption place, then the place of supply provisions will almost equal to that. If you are not able to identify the place, it mostly be if it is made to a registered person, location of such person, unregistered person, based on whatever service that you provide, based on that provision will be there. So therefore, subsection 5 talks about training and performance appraisal. If it is made to a registered person, location of such person, unregistered person, where services are actually performed. So if you visualize these examples, when a particular problem is given in the exam, it will be very, very easy for you to answer. I have given two illustrations. CASSR conducts training to finance personnel of J.Srinivasan Limited of Mumbai in a hotel located in Delhi. So I am assuming J.Srinivasan Limited to be registered. Since the recipient is registered, place of supply in Maharashtra. Will your answer change if SSR renders other professional services like audit or accounts to J.Srinivasan Limited instead of training? Absolutely yes. What is covered under this particular provision is training or performance appraisal. So audit or accounts is not training and performance appraisal. So therefore, if he is providing, let's say, consulting with respect to accounting standard, or for that matter, is performing statutory audit, those things are not covered under this section. What is covered is only training or performance appraisal, right? So therefore, answer will certainly change if SSR renders other professional services. Next example, CARSM conducts training through satellite classes at various locations across the country. So in this case, if one looks at, of course, if it is provided to a registered person, location of such person, obviously, since he is conducting through satellite, he will not even know who is joining, who is not joining. So therefore, it will always be unregistered person. So I will not be able to find out exactly how many people have watched from Mumbai, Karnataka, etc. So therefore, the place where services are actually performed. From where RSN takes classes? From Chennai. So therefore, place of supply will be Chennai. I hope you are able to understand this. Let us move on to the next provision. The next provision is very, very important, very frequently tested. Right? The subsection 6 has to be read along with subsection 7. Okay. Before going to 6 and 7, let me give you an example. Let us say which musician you like. Let's take an example of A.R. Rahman. Now, A.R. Rahman is going to perform a concert. In this concert, let us dissect the concert into multiple events. There will be one person who will do all the event management, where the concert has to happen, how decoration has to be done. He is called as an event management company, right? Or event management person. His job is to ensure that event happens successfully and what needs to be performed in the event, like giving tickets or whatever it is, that has to be ensured in a smooth manner. So that person is called as event management company. This is one. Now, for attending that concert, obviously I have to pay some amount and buy a ticket, right? The amount that I pay for buying a ticket to participate in that event, we will call it as admission to an event. We are getting admitted to the event on making some payment. This is example number 1. Example number 2, your IPL. In IPL, as rightly continuing the last example, when I purchase a ticket and go to the stadium and watch the match, that is called as admission to an event for which I make some payment. So therefore, someone is providing the supply of services to me. I am the recipient. This is one part of the service. Second part of the service. This IPL event is a very big event. Someone has to conduct the event or manage the event. That person is called as event management company. Therefore, there are these two are completely different activities. One is the person to whom I pay the amount for entering into the stadium. For that is called as admission to event services. Second, the person will organize the event. He will be the event management person. That is called as event management service. That's a different service. For which I will not pay some amount. Let us assume in the case of a concert, right? Concert is, let us say, it is conducted management. It appoints a company, Y Limited, for managing the event. So this X Limited will pay like Y Limited. That is called as event management service, for which Y Limited is receiving some consideration from X Limited. This X Limited, for entering into the concert, will charge some admission fee. That is called as admission services or admission to an event services. So therefore, I hope you are able to dissect or understand the difference between organization of an event services, admission to an event services. If you have understood this, let us move on to subsection 6 and 7, understand what they do. It says, place of supply of services provided by way of admission to a cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, educational, entertainment event or amusement park or any other place and services ancillary thereto shall be the place where the event is actually held or where the park or such other places located. Let's say I watch IPL match. Where am I consuming the services? In the stadium. Let us test all these services. Admission to a cultural event. Cultural event we have already seen. Artistic, sporting. There is an event where some particular issue is being debated on science. Okay, so they conduct an event, that's scientific event. Where you consume services in that place. Let's say a mass education program is being conducted in a particular stadium. Services are consumed in that particular stadium. Entertainment event, amusement park, all your snake park, children park, etc. All amusement or any other place and services ancillary there too. If you look at all these services, naturally services are consumed in that place where event is held. So therefore, logically, the place of supply should be the place where the event is held. That is what they have given. So for all these services, the place of supply shall be the place where the event is actually held, or where the park or such other places located. Obviously, Snake Park or Children Park is located in some place, that place will be the place of supply. So logically also this is correct. The only point that I want to understand is what is getting covered under subsection 6 is the ticket that you buy. Sorry, the ticket that you buy for participating in the event. That is what is getting covered under subsection 6. When you read subsection 7, you might get some confusion. That is why I'm reiterating this particular point. Let's see an example. Mr. A resident of Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh, buys a ticket for a circus organized at Gurgaon, Haryana, by a circus company based in New Delhi. In this case, wherever the circus is being conducted, that will be the place of supply. The place of supply is the location where circus is held, that is Gurugram. I hope you are able to understand and appreciate this. This 6 and 7 is what being tested frequently in examination. That's why I'm going a little slow. Now let us come to subsection 7. Now, before going to subsection 7, as I told you, subsection 7 is about organization of an event. I gave an example of your IPL and AR Rahman concert. In both these cases, if you look at it, with respect to organization of an event, it is actually difficult to find out the place where the services are consumed, because the person who is providing the service and the person who is receiving the service can be located in many places. Because I may conduct a concert in Mumbai. Right? So I am located in Chennai. The concert is going to happen in Mumbai. The person who is going to manage this event is from Bangalore. So supplier location is Bangalore, recipient location Chennai. The event where it is going to happen is Mumbai. I am talking about event management services. For managing this event, Bangalore fellow is helping me. I am paying some amount. Therefore, I am receiving these suppliers. Therefore, there is slight difficulty in practice to identify the place of supply. Let us see how they have identified the place of supply in that case. The place of supply of services provided by way of organization of a cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, educational or entertainment event, including supply of services in relation to a conference, fair, exhibition, celebration or similar events, or services ancillary to organization of an event or services referred to in clause A, or assigning of sponsorship to such events to a registered person shall be the location of such person. So as I told you, it's extremely difficult to identify from where the organization of event happens, because he can as well direct everything from the place. From Bangalore itself, he can tell everything. He can guide everything. So location of such person to a person other than a registered person shall be the place where the event is actually held, and if the event is held outside India, the place of supply shall be the location of the recipient. Please listen carefully. This service, what we are talking about, is organization of an event. That is an event management company service. So here, practically, place of supply is difficult. Therefore, they say if it is provided to a registered person, or they say the location of such person. When it is provided to an unregistered person, it says where the event is actually held. So I will not be able to exactly identify the location of the unregistered person. So therefore, where the event is actually held. And as I told you, this is a revenue-seeking provision as well. When the event is held outside India, the place of supply shall be the location of the recipient. So, as far as event being conducted in India is concerned, they say India will be the place of supply. However, if the event is happening outside India, they say it is not the where the event is held outside India. Place of supply shall be the location of the recipient. They don't say it is the place of the event. They say location of the recipient. So therefore, place of supply if it is in India, because recipient is in India, event is held outside India. That transaction also they are trying to bring into GST ambit. I'll tell you how they are trying to bring it in GST ambit. But place of supply naturally will be in India, because even if it is made to an unregistered person, as per this provision, it is not the place where event is held. It is the place where the recipient is located. So therefore, 2 points. One, 7 is completely different from 6. 7 talks about organization of an event, 6 talks about admission of an event. In 7, the bifurcation is services whether it is provided to a registered person or not. If it is provided to a registered person, then location of such person. If it is provided to an unregistered person, then the place where event is held. If the event is held outside India, then it is location of recipient. Like we saw for immovable property, where the immovable property is located outside India, the place of supply was recipient location. Likewise, if the event is held outside India, even location of the recipient again. Again, we saw for immovable property, like how immovable property was located in more than one state, event can also be located or event can also be held in more than one state. What happened? Same for immovable property. If you are able to bifurcate the proportion of the services rendered, then such a basis or some other basis as may be given in the agreement, or government can also prescribe the manner in which the bifurcation has to happen. There are few circulars. I'll share those circulars. Those circulars are also on the basis of this explanation only. Okay. So we have now completed the place of supply under subsection 2, which is a general rule or a residuary category, where subsection 3 to section 13, subsection 13 is not applicable, which is a residuary category. The place of supply when made to a registered person was location of such person. When it is made to an unregistered person, when you have the location of the unregistered person or address of the unregistered person, that location. In all other cases, my own place, that is location of the supplier. Subsection 3 talked about immovable property services, directly in relation to immovable property, indirectly in relation to immovable property, anything in relation to immovable property. The place of supply will be the place where location of immovable property is there, or the property is located in the index. So that is subsection 3. The point that we noted is when the immovable property is located outside India, in that case alone, the place of supply will be the location of the recipient. If the immovable property is located in more than one state, you will take the proportion of services. Then we move on to subsection 4, which was almost similar to your 17.5. Right? So what are the services that are called to subsection 4? All your catering services, personal grooming, restaurant services, fitness, beauty treatment, healthcare services, cosmetic and plastic surgery, similar to your 17.5. For this, place of supply will be the location where services are actually performed. Subsection 5 was training and appraisal services. If it is provided to a registered person, location of such person. If it is an unregistered person, the location where services are actually performed. One important point that I want to tell you, I would suggest you to remember along with the subsection. I'll tell you the way in which you can memorize this. What you can do is, you should first read subsection wise. Let's say we have completed subsection until subsection 7. You should start with subsection 2 and again says till subsection 7. Once you complete subsection 8, then again start with subsection 2, complete 8. Like that, if you read, it will stay in memory forever. That's how I did for my CA final when service tax was there. I remember the place of supply provision like that only. I read first general provision. Once that is completed, I will revise it. Second provision is completed, I will revise to both of these subsections. So if you revise like that, it will be staying in your memory permanently. So therefore, I would suggest you to remember that way. Subsection 5 is training and appraisal. Subsection 6 and 7 we read it together. Subsection 6 is about admission to an event. 7 is about organization of an event. In case of admission to an event, very easy, the place where event is actually held. If it is organization of an event, if it is made to a registered person, location of such person, unregistered person, if the event is held in India, it will be the location of the location where the event is held. If the event is held outside India, then location of the recipient, similar to your immovable property, right? And if the event is held in more than one place, you have to calculate this proportionately, right? I've given an example. Mega Events, an event management company at Delhi, organizes an award function for Shah Diamond Merchants of Ahmedabad, registered in Gujarat at Mumbai. In this case, since the recipient is registered, obviously the location will be the location of the registered person. Just a minute. Yeah. Right. Let us now move on to subsection 8. Right. subsection 8, before moving on to subsection 8, one more point I want to add in subsection 7. It is not only the organization of an event that is covered, but sponsorship service is also covered. The sponsorship service, many people are unable to grasp this particular nature of service because of one reason. I'll give you two examples and tell you why it is difficult for people to remember. Let us say an exhibition is conducted. This exhibition showcases, let's say, some products in relation to which industry, let's say grinder and mixer industry. So there is an exhibition which is conducted. This exhibition for showcasing your grinder and mixer related products. Let us take an example. There is a company called as Ultra, LG Ultra, you have heard, Ultra brand. That company is showcasing its products in that exhibition. Am I right? It is showcasing its product. Now, for showcasing its product, should it pay some amount to the person who is organizing this exhibition? Right? So this is called a sponsorship. Number 2, let us say the same exhibition, in addition to showcasing the product, right? What LG Ultra does is it places its logo, Ultra logo, in places across the exhibition. So example number 1 is they showcase their product. Example number 2, they don't showcase their product, they sponsor the event. But for sponsoring the event, what they do is, in addition to, since they are going to pay some money for conducting the exhibition, what they do is they place all the logos, sponsored by LG Ultra, sponsored by LG Ultra. You would have seen this IPL, in the advertisement board, whoever has sponsored the tournament, their name will be there. So, in case of sponsorship, the critical point to be noted here is who is the service provider, who is the service recipient. Please understand, it is not the sponsor who is the service provider. Sponsor is not providing any service. The person who is providing the service is the recipient of the sponsorship. In this case, the logo of LG Ultra is placed in that exhibition. In this case, who is receiving the payment? Who is making the payment? LG Ultra is making the payment. LG Ultra is a sponsor. Who is the recipient? Whoever is conducting the exhibition is the person who is receiving the money. So, naturally, person who is receiving the money is only the supplier. If I am the supplier, will I make the payment or receive the payment? I will receive the payment. So, if you remember from that angle, the person whoever is receiving the payment, right, is the person who is the supplier in case of sponsorship service. Whoever is making the payment is the recipient of sponsorship service. If I say IPL is being sponsored by, let us say, Vivo IPL, you would have heard. He is a sponsor of the IPL tournament. If I say IPL is sponsored by Vivo, Vivo is not the service provider, please understand. He is the service recipient. He will make some payment for conducting the IPL. Can a person who is making the payment be a service provider? If I make the payment to you will only always, why will I make the payment if I'm rendering service? So obviously not. So therefore, in case of sponsorship, the first confusion that will come is the sponsor of himself is a service provider. That is wrong. It is not the sponsorer. It is the sponsoree who is the service provider. Sponsorer, he places his logo, advertisement boards, etc. That is the service he receives, for which he makes the payment. IPL is being watched by millions of people. So when advertisement boards are placed in, let's say, in the boundary lane, or for that matter in the after post-match presentation, etc., many people see the advertisement. That is the service which is received by the sponsorer. So therefore, that service is also covered under the subsection 7. Sponsorship service is also covered. In case of sponsorship, please understand the person who is sponsoring is the recipient. It is not the person who is sponsoring who is the player. He is the recipient. The person whom the sponsorship is received is called as a supplier. This point I want to clarify. Many people had some confusion earlier, so therefore I am clarifying. 2 points I clarified. 1, sponsorship services are covered under subsection 7. 2, what is a sponsorship service? I sponsor an event, right? I will be the recipient because I make the payment for conducting this event. The person who is actually receiving the sponsorship is the supplier. Person who is sponsoring the event is called as the recipient. Accordingly, provisions will apply. Right? So therefore, in that case, if it is to a registered person, if it is, let's say, it is sponsor or is a registered person, because in exam that is where the confusion is. If you assume sponsor to be a supplier, what you will do, you will see the other person whether he is registered or not. But you have to see whether the sponsor is registered or not. In this case, Vivo is registered or not. If Vivo is registered, Vivo's location will be the place of supply. So therefore, I hope this point you are able to understand and appreciate. Let us move on to the next class. So the reason why I'm spending a lot of time is the typical examination question will always revolve around subsection 6 and subsection 7. That is why I'm spending a lot of time in subsection 6 and 7. Next is your transportation of goods service. This is very, very simple. Your courier services, all your professional couriers, etc. Obviously, difficult to see. Difficult to say where the services are actually performed because you can courier to any place. So therefore, they have gone for general rule. When it is provided to a registered person, location of such person. When it is provided to a person other than a registered person, it shall be the location at which goods are handed over for their transportation. So if I and you go to a professional service and hand over some parcel to the courier, right? We exactly don't know where the services will be consumed. Therefore, the place where the goods are handed over for their transportation will be the location of the place of supply. So therefore, for transportation of goods service, including by mail or courier, it is a general rule: registered person, location of such person, other than registered person, the place where goods are handed over for their transportation. I have given two examples. XYZ Private Limited, a registered company in Delhi, it sends its courier in Pune through Miss Blue Air Courier Service. The recipient being registered person, the place of supply is the location of recipient, that is New Delhi. Next example, SP Private Limited, a goods transport agency based in Noida, Uttar Pradesh, is hired by Chaya Trade Links, registered supplier in New Delhi, to transport its consignment of goods to a buyer in Kanpur. Since the recipient is registered, place of supply is location of the recipient. I have given these two examples just to make you understand what are all services that are covered under this particular subsection. So subsection 8 is about transportation of goods service. Right? It will cover GTA as well as your normal courier services. Let us move on to subsection 9, passenger transportation service. What is passenger transportation service? You go in a train, you go in a flight. For those services, what will be the place of supply? Again, very difficult. You take a flight, you go from Chennai to Delhi. So therefore, where services are consumed, difficult. So therefore, they have gone based on general rule. In case of passenger transportation service, it is made to a registered person, location of such person. The class B is what is very, very crucial, and we will take some time to discuss this class B. If it is made to a person other than a registered person, it shall be the place where the passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey. So, with respect to registered person, there are no issues whenever you provide to registered person, location of such person. When services are provided to an unregistered person, it says the place where the passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey. So therefore, continuous journey. If it is a continuous journey, the place where the passenger embarks. So which means, let us first understand continuous journey, then come to this particular point. What is a continuous journey? Let me give an example. You want to go to UK. Now there is, let's assume from Chennai there is no direct flight. So what you do is you go to Delhi. From Delhi you take a flight to UK. This is example number 1. This example number 1 can happen in 2 ways. One, you book a ticket for London in Indigo. You book a ticket. Let's say the ticket costs, let's say 1 lakh rupees. One payment you make, he is giving one ticket, but using that one ticket, what he can do is he can get down in New Delhi in the same Indigo flight. There will be one more Indigo flight which will take off from New Delhi to London, or the same flight. It can stay in New Delhi for 2 hours or 3 hours, and then it can go to New Delhi. This is scenario 1. Scenario number 2, what I do is I don't want to waste so much of time in New Delhi. So what I do is I take a flight from Chennai to Delhi in, let us say, let's take some other airline, Air India. I take Air India flight from Chennai to New Delhi. From New Delhi to London, I book a separate flight of Indigo. In this case, scenario number that one that I told, I purchased one ticket from Indigo is called as continuous journey. Scenario number two, where I book two different tickets, one from Chennai to Delhi, second separately from Delhi to London in two different airlines. Second is called as non-continuous journey, or second will not qualify as continuous journey. What is the difference? The difference is, in the first scenario, I have no other option but to embark on a flight from Delhi in the time or at the time when this airline Indigo is saying. Let us say I purchase a ticket. My flight time from Chennai is, let's say, 7 a.m. It reaches Delhi at 10 a.m. If Indigo says I have to embark on the next flight at 11 a.m., I have to embark. I have to embark on flight in New Delhi. If I do not have any option to decide whether I can travel from this place or not, this will certainly be a continuous journey. Because there is a continuous journey, this journey I have no other say. Based on whatever airline says, I have to obey. Now, second point is, even if the Indigo is giving two different tickets, you book a ticket for London, but it is coming in two different tickets. That doesn't matter. Even then, it will qualify as continuous journey. In the second scenario, where I book a ticket for Delhi, it's my discretion. In Delhi, I can get down. If I want, I need not even fly from Delhi to London. I can postpone that flight timings, or I can even cancel that. So everything is my discretion. Therefore, there is no continuous journey. It's in my hand whether to break this journey or not. With this background, let us see the definition of the continuous journey. You will be able to understand and appreciate it. For the purpose of continuous journey definition, I think I have given. Okay, I have not given in this particular notes the definition of continuous journey. Let me see if I have given somewhere. I have not given. Probably what I will do is I will read the definition from some other, let's say, bare provisions. I will read the definition of continuous journey. Just give me a moment. Okay. I think I have listed the definition of continuous journey. Let me read it from bare provisions. I am reading the definition of continuous journey. Continuous journey means a journey for which a single or more than one ticket. In our example, either Indigo can give one ticket or more than one ticket. A single or more than one ticket or invoice is issued at the same time, either by a single supplier of service or through an agent. So I can book the ticket through an agent or directly the airline, acting on behalf of more than one supplier of service, and which involves, this is what is important, which involves no stopover between any of the legs of the journey. So the only feature which is important is, in case of continuous journey, there should not be any stopover. You can tell me that Delhi you are stopping for some time. No, that's not a stopover. It is not the question of you stopping it. You have no other option but to stop for some time. So if you deliberately stop at a particular place for some time, and it is your discretion whether to move from that place or not, it will certainly not be a continuous journey. But you have no other option. Indigo's flight time is only 1 p.m. I reached Delhi at 11 a.m. I have no other option but to continue with this journey at this particular time. So therefore, which involves no stopover between any of the legs of the journey for which one or more separate tickets or invoices are issued. So 2-3 features are necessary for continuous journey. You either purchase one ticket or more than one ticket, doesn't matter. Second point is there are no stopovers between the journey. When I say stopover, the stopover is certainly with respect to my ability to stop at that particular place and decide at what point in time I can continue this journey. It is not a question of a stopover where for 10 minutes or 15 minutes I stop in between because flight is standing at a particular airport. I hope you are able to understand this. Now, applying those provisions in this context, if there is a continuous journey, in that case, the place of supply will be, and of course, if it is provided to an unregistered person, this provision will apply. If it is provided to an unregistered person, the location where the passenger embarks on the conveyance. So, I embark at Chennai. My destination is London. So, the place of supply in this case will be the location of Chennai because that is where I embark. Suppose there could be some passengers where they will embark from Delhi because I am a resident of Delhi. There is a Delhi flight which, there is a flight from Delhi which goes to London. I purchase one ticket from Delhi to London. In that case, the embarkation happens from Delhi. So therefore, whenever there is a continuous journey, in those cases, whenever the service is provided to an unregistered person, it will always be the place where passenger embarks for a continuous journey. I hope you are able to understand this. Right? Let us read the proviso. What does the proviso say? Now, okay, let us read and understand the scenario. Provided that where the right to passage is given for future use and the point of embarkation is not known at the time of issue of right to passage, the place of supply of such service shall be determined in accordance with the provisions of subsection 2. It's very simple. Let me give an example. I don't know whether you have heard this. Delhi Metro and all. Delhi Metro connects two states, Haryana and Delhi. You can obtain a train pass. Using the train pass, you can travel between, I think, Gurgaon or some place. I don't remember exactly. A metro train connects two states, Delhi as well as Haryana. In those cases, if a pass is provided, let's say you are traveling in train, if a pass is provided, at which place the service are consumed is very difficult to understand or identify. So, therefore, the provision says, whenever right to passage is given for future use, you obtain a pass which can be used in future for traveling, and point of embarkation is not known. I can either start from Delhi using that pass, I can either start from Haryana, that's absolutely my discretion. So, point of embarkation is not known. At the time of issue of right to passage, the place of supply of such service shall be determined in accordance with provisions of subsection 2. So, therefore, general rule. If at all there is a scenario where I obtain a pass and using that pass I can travel between two states. See, if it is a travel within the state, then there is no issue. Place of supply will always be in the state. The reason why I am giving this example is because only two states are connected, this provision will make sense. Otherwise, the place of supply will always be that state. You can take the example of your Tamaram to Chennai also, pass that you obtain. You can either start from Tamaram or you can start from Mount, etc. But I have not given that example because in any way the place of supply will be Tamil Nadu. But this is crucial only where the pass is given and pass can be used to travel between two states. In that case, the place of supply will be determined in accordance with subsection 2. Subsection 2 says when the service is provided to a registered person, location of such person, if it is provided to an unregistered person, obviously the address on a record exists, such address, if that is not there, then location of supplier. So I have given two examples here. Mr. Amar, registered person in New Delhi, travels from Mumbai to Bangalore in Airjet flight. Mr. Amar has bought the tickets for the journey from Airjet's office registered in New Delhi. Place of supply is the location of the recipient because Amar is a registered person. Mr. C, unregistered person in Chennai, has come to Delhi on occasion. He buys prepaid Delhi Metro card from Delhi Metro for hassle-free commute in the national capital region. Recipient being unregistered, the place of supply is the address of Mr. C, that is Chennai. So therefore, though Mr. C is traveling in Delhi Metro, but since the address of Mr. C is Chennai, since unregistered person place of supply is the place where if at all right to passage is given for a future point in time, it is the place where it is decided in accordance with subsection 2. Wherever a pass is given, in that case, the place of supply is determined in accordance with subsection 2. Since he is an unregistered person, if address on record exists, so in this case, I have the address of Mr. C, which is Chennai. Therefore, the place of supply will be Chennai. Suppose if address of Mr. C is not available with the Delhi Metro, the place of supply will be location of the supplier, that is New Delhi. So therefore, C is a case where right to future passage is given, that is I obtain a pass, using that pass I travel. In that case, it has to be determined in accordance with subsection 2. Subsection 2 says if it is provided to a registered person, location of such person. Since C is an unregistered person, it will be the place where, if at all I have address on record, that address. If I don't have that address, location of supplier of services. Next one. This is actually a service which has to be again read with place of supply of goods. If you could recollect, we saw something called as supply of food on board a conveyance. Okay, so therefore that is supply of goods on board a conveyance. This is supply of service on board a conveyance. Let's say, for example, you travel in a flight. Let's say you want to watch some movie. Probably they can provide you Wi-Fi services or other services, right? So those are supply of services on board a conveyance. So in that case, it is difficult to identify the place of supply. There we saw the place where the location of the goods which are taken on board. So we took an example of food, right? I told you that flight starts from Chennai to Delhi. Food is loaded in Chennai. Therefore, the place of supply will be Chennai. In case of goods, it is the place at which goods are taken on board. In the case of services, it is the place of first scheduled point of departure of the conveyance for the journey. So let's say in the earlier example, let's take I want to go to London, right? I take two flights, one from Chennai to Delhi to London. In this case, the first scheduled point of departure is Chennai. Same Indigo flight I am traveling. The first scheduled point of departure is Chennai. Therefore, place of supply will be Chennai. So if at all I avail any services, entertainment services in the flight, for that the place of supply will be the first scheduled point of departure. There we saw the place where goods are taken on board a conveyance. So therefore these two has to be read together. That is with respect to subsection 10. For the telecom services, I will give you a table. I have not copy pasted this table. Telecom services is very, very simple. There is no value addition. You have to just memorize. It will be dissected based on the service services, whether it is prepaid service, postpaid service, whether it is DTH service or other services. I'm not going into that. I will share you a table for telecom services. Let us move on to subsection 12. Subsection 12 talks about place of supply of banking and other financial services, including stock brokerage services. These are services are very difficult to identify. For example, I open a bank account, let us say in Bangalore branch. I can open a bank account in any branch, right? So you will not know whether the services are consumed in Bangalore. I can stay in Bangalore for some time. I can go away to Chennai again for some time. So therefore, these are all services where it is extremely difficult for the bank to identify where these services are actually consumed. So therefore, the general rule, place of supply of banking and other financial services, including stock broking services, to any person shall be the location of the recipient of services on the records of the supplier of services. Very logical. See, for these services, only practical way is I will give my address. If I give Chennai address, the place of supply is Chennai, or for that matter, any other address that I give, that will be the place of supply. Stock broking services. There are a lot of stock brokers available. So obviously, as a part of KYC, they will get your address. So whatever address you give, that state will be the place of supply. Provided that if the location of recipient of service is not on the records of the supplier, place of supply shall be the location of supplier of service. This is similar to your subsection 2. Whenever you do not have the location of recipient of services, then the location of supplier of services will be the place of supply. This is for banking and financial services. Subsection 13, insurance services. Again, difficult to identify where the services are consumed. So therefore, if it is provided to a registered person, location of such person. If it is provided to an unregistered person, then location of recipient of services on the record of supplier of services. Again, similar. So what I would suggest you is you find out those list of services where the place of supply is based on whether he is a registered person or not. Combine all those services into a cluster and then combine those services which are very, very specific in nature, like where services are actually performed, where immovable property is located, like that you bifurcate, where event is held. So you bifurcate all these services into two. One very, very specific to that particular service. Second, general, provide to registered person, unregistered person. Insurance service also will come into that general category. If it is provided to a registered person, location of such person. If it is provided to an unregistered person, location of the recipient of services on the records of the supplier. Again, similar to your banking services. The last one under subsection or under section 12 is subsection 14. I'll tell you an example. We need not read this. There are a lot of circulars in this regard. Once you understand this concept, you will be able to understand that particular circulars. What happened? Let us take the classic example of COVID. Now, let's say the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu frequently comes in almost all channels. He just tries to spread awareness as to what a person should do or should not do during this COVID as a safety measure. Now, in that case, the advertisement services are provided to state government. Likewise, during election season, you would have seen the person whoever is in power, they will advertise their achievements in all the television channels, or for that matter, newspaper. Very big ad you will see, one paper ad you will see. These are all cases where services or advertising services provided to central government or state government. What is the challenge in these services? The challenge is, let's take an example of a paper, Indian Express. Circulation is across India. If one advertisement, let us say, is provided by central government, we do not know exactly who is consuming the service, because person in Tamil Nadu is also getting this paper, Karnataka is also getting this paper, New Delhi is also getting this paper. So therefore, in cases where advertisement services are provided to central government or state government, we do not know exactly where these services are consumed. Therefore, they say, in case of TV, you would obviously have the viewership numbers. In Tamil Nadu, 100 people saw this advertisement. In Karnataka, 200 people. They have this record. Based on the dissemination of the advertisement, place of supply has to be identified. Or, if that is not possible, in such other reasonable basis as may be provided in the notification of the circular. There are some notifications and circulars in this regard. I will share those notification circulars. The point to be understood is, in case of advertisement services, difficult to identify place of supply. Normally, it can be place of supply can be attributed based on the proportion of the amount attributable to the respective states. If that is not possible, then the government will provide some notification circular. They have provided the notification circular. I would request you to go through the notification circular. I am providing the notification circulars, etc., for place of supply in a separate note. Okay, so therefore, the last one is advertisement services, where there will be some basis on which the place of supply will be identified. The basis will mostly be based on the viewership, etc. Okay, you can read those circulars. Any doubts we have, we can come back. We'll probably take a break for 2 minutes and then come back and complete section 13, place of supply. Then move on to TDS, TCS, and also your what you call tax note, tax invoice debited note. I think we will be able to complete those 2 chapters as well, because those are very, very small chapters. Let's take a break of 2 minutes and come back. Let us start with section 13. So, if you would recollect section 12, we started with saying that section 12 is applicable when the location of the supplier and the location of the recipient is in India. So therefore, if the location of the supplier or the location of the recipient is outside India, then which provision should we look for to identify the place of supply? This is section 13. You have to go for section 13. So section 13 provides for determination of place of supply of services, where either the location of the supplier of services or the recipient of services is outside India. So therefore, either if the supplier is located outside India or recipient is outside India, please come to section 13. Now, before going on to section 13, I actually want to discuss a concept called as export of services. Let me share the notes. So this is export of services. Let us read the definition of export of services. You will then appreciate why initially when I told you that logic of understanding place of supply is one, the place of consumption. Second one is revenue seeking mentality. Okay. Let us read the definition of export and then let us discuss this again. Export of services means the supply of any service when the supplier of service is located in India, the recipient of service is located outside India, the place of supply of service is outside India, highlighted, the payment for such service has been received by the supplier of service in convertible foreign exchange or in Indian rupees wherever permitted by Reserve Bank of India. And lastly, the supplier of service and the recipient of service are not merely establishments of distinct person in accordance with explanation 1 to section 8. It is not as simple as we logically think. It is not a question of once I provide service to a person located outside India, it qualifies as export of service. There are many conditions to be satisfied in order to qualify as export of service. The first condition, once it's certainly logical, supplier has to be located in India. Let us say I am a chartered accountant. I provide consulting service to a company located outside India. So supplier is mine. Supplier is me. I provide service from India. There is no doubt. Supplier is in India. Recipient of service is outside India. Who is the recipient? The foreign company. It's located outside India. No issues. Place of supply of such service is outside India. When I was discussing this immovable property service and the event management service, I specifically told you these two provisions, they made an exception for place of consumption. We logically thought that immovable property location should be the place of supply. But they made an exception where immovable property is located outside India. The place of supply will be the location of recipient. Suppose I am availing immovable property service, my immovable property is located outside India. It is not the location of immovable property that is the place of supply. It is my location, the recipient location, which is the place of supply. In which case, what will happen? Though the services or the immovable property is located outside India, place of supply will be India, which means it will not qualify as export of service because place of supply is not outside India. Place of supply is certainly India, right? An event management. Let's say event is held outside India. Even though normally for all purposes they said the location of place of supply is location where event is held, but whenever the event is held outside India, they said the place of supply will be the location of the recipient. Again, in order to take the transactions of this nature out of the purview of the definition of export of service, they have defined the place of supply in this manner. Now, what will they benefit from if they define like this? For export of services, there are a lot of benefits. In fact, for export of service, if you provide some documents, you need not even pay tax. I'll come to that later in other classes. But for export of service per se, there are a lot of concessions. You can even go for refund. When we discuss refund chapter, I will tell you. So therefore, export of service gives you a lot of benefits. That's why the place of supply is given specifically outside India. That's why they are trying to limit the maximum number of cases with respect to export of service by saying place of supply will be India. So therefore, this point I told you only to reiterate the fact that this is a revenue seeking provision in addition to logic. Wherever the logic is deviated, the deviation will be for the purpose of revenue seeking, right? So third condition is place of supply is outside India. It does not stop with it. Condition number 4 says we have to receive convertible foreign exchange, which means in the example that I gave, I provide consulting service to a foreign company. Let us say that foreign company has a subsidiary in India. For the services that I rendered, the subsidiary company pays INR amount to me. So total fee is, let's say, $1 lakh. That $1 lakh converted into INR, this subsidiary company pays to me. In this case, though you provided services to a foreign company, though supply location in India, recipient location in outside India, place of supply also will be outside India. My service is not specifically covered under any of the specific provisions. It will be a general provision. So therefore, it will be location of recipient. So place of supply is also outside India. But since I did not receive convertible foreign exchange, this transaction will not qualify as export. Right? And the last clause, very interesting, right? It says, of course, point to be reiterated is whenever RBI permits receipt of INR, then in that case, fine. For example, in Nepal, INR is accepted. If I provide services to a person in Nepal, I would obviously receive INR only. So therefore, in that case, though I receive INR, I will still qualify, or my transaction will still qualify as export, right? So wherever RBI is permitting INR, in that case, INR is fine. Last condition, the supplier of service and the recipient of service are not merely establishments of a distinct person in accordance with explanation 1 in section 8. I don't want to go into the particular explanation and explain. I'll give an example. What they say is, if you deal with your branch or head office, let us say there is X Limited. This X Limited has a branch office, let's say in Dubai. Now, this X Limited provides some services to its branch outside India. Technically speaking, supplier location in India, recipient location outside India, place of supply is outside India, amount also is received in converted foreign exchange. That branch office remits back some Dubai currency. Everything is satisfied. But the last clause says recipient of service and supplier of service are not merely establishment of distinct person. If you go to the definition of establishment of a distinct person, a branch in India and a head office outside India are establishment of distinct person, or vice versa. A head office are treated as establishment of distinct person. If you could recollect the discussion that happened during the supply, we discussed that a branch in Karnataka and a branch of the same company in Tamil Nadu are distinct persons. Likewise, it is a case of interstate. If it's a case of outside India, a branch in India and a branch outside India will be treated as establishments of distinct person. And vice versa, head office in India, branch outside India, and the other way around is also treated as establishment of distinct person. Now, what if it is establishment of distinct person? If the supplier and recipient are establishment of distinct persons, even though you satisfy class A, B, C, D, etc., that is supplier located in India, recipient located outside India, place of supply outside India, amount also receiving convertible foreign exchange, that transaction will still not qualify as export of service. Right? If anyone wants a specific reason for this, you can comment, I will tell you, but otherwise, let us continue. So therefore, that will not qualify as export of service. This is point one. Point number two, let's assume it's not a branch. Let's say there's a holding company in India and there's a subsidiary company outside India. If I provide services to a subsidiary company outside India, then that will qualify as export of service. Because company is one person. Under that person, there can be multiple branches, multiple registered persons. But if it is company A, company B, there are two different persons. So whenever the transaction happens between holding and subsidiary or associate related persons, absolutely no issues. If you satisfy other conditions, this will qualify as export. But whenever there is a transaction between the branches or head office and branch, that will not qualify as export because of clause 5. This discussion, again, I will reiterate and recollect in some other context. But as of now, understand that export of service has these many conditions. Only if all these conditions are satisfied, your transaction will qualify as export. Now let us move on to section 13. I discussed this for a reason. I will tell you the reason in a few moments. In fact, one reason I already told you, that since export involves a lot of benefits, as far as possible, the law will try to make the place of supply in India instead of outside India. I'll tell you instances. We have already discussed an instance of immovable property and event management services, but we will see other instances where the same strategy will be tried by the government to ensure that place of supply is in India, not outside India. Let's start with section 13. As I told you, 13 is applicable when either the location of the supplier or the recipient is outside India. Now, like how we had a general rule under section 12, we have general rule for 13 as well. Now, 13, I have not gone based on the order of the section. I have gone based on the reputation. What is reputation? If you look at most of the services that we saw in section 12 will be repeated. But here and there will be slight modification for the place of supply. So therefore, I have taken those services which we have already seen in section 12. Once we complete that, we will see the unique provisions under section 13. Right? So first to go for general rule. Place of supply of services is the location of recipient of services. So normally, if your services are not covered under any of the subsections, the place of supply will always be the location of the recipient, right? However, if the location of the recipient of service is not available, in the ordinary course of business, place of supply is the location of supplier of service. So, if you are able to identify the recipient location, absolutely fine, that will be the location of place of supply. If you are not able to identify the location of the recipient, in that case, the place of supply will be your own location, that is supplier's location. Let us move on to specific subsections. Right? So therefore, as I told you, I have taken common provisions between section 12 and 13. First is your immovable property. We all know what is the place of supply for immovable property under section 12. It is the location of the immovable property. There is no change at all. The place of supply still continues to be location of immovable property, excepting one or two change and come to it later. But as far as services are concerned, all the services that we saw in section 12 are covered under this, including architectural services, engineering services, real estate agent services, accommodation services, right to use immovable property services, etc. So the place of supply continues to be location of immovable property. But there are few exceptions. What are those exceptions? We will see now. When above services are supplied at more than one location, including a location in the taxable territory. I told you at the beginning when I was discussing export of service definition, they will deliberately try to draft a provision wherein your place of supply will be India. Let's say they are giving a scenario where above services supplied at more than one location, including location in a taxable territory. I have given an example also for that. Let us say Mr. C, an architect who is located in New Delhi, provides professional services to Mr. Z of New York in relation to his immovable property located in Pune. In this case, Mr. Z is a non-resident, he is not located in India. Suppose section 13 will apply. Mr. C, an architect, is providing services to Mr. Z of New York in relation to his immovable property located in Pune. Immovable property is located in Pune. The place of supply is the location of immovable property. This is what is the first instance. This we are very, very clear, right? See the second example. The first example is for general clause, where we saw it is the location of immovable property. No issues we have, absolutely fine. Next example, Mr. C, an architect who is located in New Delhi, enters into a contract with Mr. Z of New York to provide professional service in respect of immovable properties of Mr. Z located in Pune and New York. Please understand, the first case, the immovable property was located only in Pune. In the second case, property is located in Pune as well as New York. Since the immovable properties are located in more than one location, including a location in the taxable territory, place of supply is the location of the taxable territory. Now, please understand, I told you that above services supplied at more than one location. The architect services are provided to a property located in Pune as well as property located in New York. So, if you are providing services in relation to immovable property and that immovable property is located in both the states and it is located in taxable territory as well as non-taxable territory, the place of supply will be the location in the taxable territory, which means, let us say, the New York property is, let's say, 10,000 square feet. The Indian property is only 1,000 square feet. And the architect is providing services to both Pune property as well as New York property. Total value of services for the architect is, let's say, 50 lakh rupees. Now, the entire 50 lakhs, for this entire 50 lakhs, the place of supply will be India and not New York, though New York has significant portion of the square feet compared to India. So therefore, whenever a service is provided in respect of an immovable property, which is located in those cases, the place will be the location of the taxable territory. So therefore, moment your property is located in India, you are absolutely gone. It will be India only. Okay. So this is point 2. Point 3. Above services supplied in more than one state or union territory. This we already saw. Whenever the property is located in more than one state or union territory, it will be proportionated between those states or union territories. The point to be understood is whenever services are supplied in more than one location. It can be engineering services also, it can be architectural services, or it can be your expert services. Let's say I practice international law as well as local laws. A person is contacting me, he has properties in, let us say, India as well as US. He is coming for consultancy with respect to legal aspects of a sale. So I draft the agreement for him for sale both in India as well as outside India. In this case, I am providing services at more than one location, including location in taxable territory. In this case also, the legal fees that I receive, the place of supply will be taxable territory. If it is taxable territory, the export of service definition will not be qualified because one of the criteria for export of service is location outside India. Place of supply outside India. In this case, place of supply will be India. So therefore, your transaction will not qualify as export of services. I hope you are able to understand and appreciate this. Let us move on to the next service, which we already saw in section 12. Admission to or organization of events. So again, if you look at difference, there are no differences actually. When it comes to admission of an event, there also we saw place where event is actually held. Here also they are given services supplied by admission to or organization of cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, educational, entertainment event, celebration, conference, fair, etc. Place where event is actually held. Now, like you saw for immovable property, when the services are supplied at more than one location, including the taxable territory, it is again a taxable territory. I have given an example also below. Let us see the example. Again, like immovable property, where the services are supplied in more than one state or territory, you have to proportionate it. Okay, let us say example number 1. A circus team from Russia organizes a circus in New Delhi. The place of supply is the place where event is actually held, therefore New Delhi. Second example, an event management company registered in New Delhi organizes an art exhibition displaying works of an international painter based in Dubai. The exhibition is organized in 3 countries, including New Delhi. Since the service is supplied at more than one location, including a location in the taxable territory, place of supply is the location of the taxable territory, that is New Delhi. So therefore, whenever there involves India with respect to organization of event, moment there is one taxable territory, though you may conduct this exhibition across 10 countries, moment there is service supported in taxable territory, the entire services will be subject to GST in India because the place of supply will be taxable territory. If it is taxable territory, then export of services definition will not qualify. Accordingly, if export of service is not there, you have to pay tax. There is no concession. Right, let us move on. So, transportation services, if you could recollect, we saw something related to transportation services. The first one we saw was courier related services, where it is provided to a registered person, location of such person. If it is provided to an unregistered person, the place where the goods are handed over for the transportation is what we saw under section 12. But section 13 is slightly different. It says mail or courier, it is destination of such goods. So the ultimate destination will be the place of supply under section 13. Next is passenger transportation services. If you would recollect, we saw 2 things in passenger transportation services. If service is provided to a registered person, location of such person. If service is provided to an unregistered person, and if it is in respect of a continuous journey, then the location where the passenger embarks for a continuous journey is what we saw. And wherever a pass is given for a future passage, then we saw the location of the recipient where address exists. When address does not exist, then it is the subsection 2, general provision which will apply. Here there are no such bifurcations, there is only one provision. Place where passenger embarks on a continuous journey. So if there is only one provision, registered person, unregistered person, there is no such bifurcation. Whenever there is a continuous journey, wherever you embark, that will be the place of supply. So therefore, please understand this particular point. People make mistakes here. You see, whenever whenever there is no specific mention about a particular service, general provision will apply. For example, for passenger transportation service, for continuous journey they have given. If it is not a continuous journey, by default your section 13 subsection 2 will apply. That is general provision apply, location of the recipient. So therefore, the point to be understood is what is covered specifically under this particular section. For that alone, place of supply has to be computed in this manner. Otherwise, you have to go to section 13 subsection 2. Right? Yes. So therefore, for passenger transportation service, if at all there is a continuous journey, the place where passenger embarks. The last one is services provided on board a conveyance. Right? This is same as that of whatever we saw in section 12. first scheduled point of departure. So I saw that some entertainment services can be consumed in flight. For those services, first scheduled point. Wherever it depart, okay, that place will be the place of supply. So I've given you examples. A shipping line, Mumbai Maharashtra transports shipment of flowers from Mumbai to Paris for an event management company based in Paris. The place of supply is location of destination of goods, that is Paris. Mr. A, a foreign tourist, has booked a ticket for New Delhi to Sri Lanka flight from an airline registered in New Delhi for a continuous journey without any stopover. In this case, the place of supply, the place where passenger embarks on the conveyance for a continuous journey, which is New Delhi. So therefore, There was some connectivity problem. So we were discussing place of supply under section 13. Let me take the notes. So we were looking at, I don't know at what point in time it got distracted. I think we were seeing this transportation services. We completed those transportation services. I think it got disconnected during banking or financial services. Let us start with banking and financial services. So banking and financial services, we did see in section 12. So which is there in section 13 also. Services supplied by a banking company or a financial institution or non-banking financial company to account holders. Intermediate services we did not see, we have to discuss. Services consisting of hiring of means of transport, including yachts but excluding aircrafts and vessels up to a period of 1 month, we need to see. So in this particular subsection, except for banking company, other two services we did not see. So for banking company, yes, the location will be location of supplier. So all these services, intermediary services, banking company services, hiring by means of transport, for all these services, the place of supply is location of supplier of services. As I told you, as far as possible, they are trying to get us out of this export of service definition. In this case, if you look at, for all these services, they say place of supply is not the location of the recipient. The location of the recipient is provided, then it will probably be outside India. But since location of supply is provided, then most probably it will be in India. So therefore, for banking company, it is outside India. Sorry, banking company is the location of the supplier of service. For intermediate service, it is location of supplier. And services by ways of hiring of means of transport. For that also, location of supplier. We need to understand who's an intermediary and also hiring of means of transport. Hiring of means of transport, I don't there is an issue. Just hire a vehicle for transport of persons. So therefore, I don't think hiring is an issue. We need to understand who is an intermediary. Okay, intermediary is defined. Very simple definition. Or I will tell you the features of the definition. It involves the following. One, there has to be a person. Firstly, there has to be three persons. One is a supplier, second is a recipient, third is an intermediary. So therefore, if there are only two persons, there cannot be an intermediary service. There has to be three persons involved in a particular transaction. Second, the supplier and recipient is there. So there is A, B, C. A is the supplier, C is the customer. This B is in between A and C. What B has to do if he has to qualify as intermediary? He has to arrange or facilitate some supply of goods or service. I'm repeating it again. A is supplier, C is the customer. B, if he wants to be treated as intermediary, then he has to arrange or facilitate supply of goods or services. So he will act in between A and C for facilitating the transaction of supply of goods or services between A and C. If such facilitation or arrangement happens, then the person B will be called as an intermediary, and the services that he will provide will be called as intermediary services. Now, the only point that you have to understand is, it is not that always when a person is facilitating, he will be called as an intermediary. He has to do it on principle to principle basis and not principle to, sorry, he has to do it on principle to agent basis and not principle to principle basis. What is principle to principle basis? What is principle to agent basis? Let us take two examples. Let us say there is a contract between A and C. Let us continue the same example. There is a contract between A and C, right? A and C put together are doing one common particular one. Let's say put together doing one particular service. Let's say they have taken a contract for construction. A and C together doing this contract of construction of service. Now, for this contract, what I can do is I can act as a coordinator and collect all the details of this contract from A as well as C, and then maintain books of accounts, and they do some back office support services. I'm repeating it again. There is A and C who has come together for performing construction service. Right? A separately maintains books, C separately maintains books or maintains records. As an intermediary or as a person who is coordinating between A and C, I collect all the details from A. I also collect details from C, and I maintain accounts and collect documents and information and present it in one form. So I also provide all the back office support services by maintaining invoices, etc. In this case, though I facilitate or arrange supply of goods or services or supply of services between these two people, I will not be classified as intermediary because I am not acting as an agent. I am doing this service on principal to principal basis. As a chartered accountant, I am in this profession. I always act on principal to principal basis. This is not qualified as intermediary. Whereas, let us say, let us continue the same example. C is in need of supply of certain types of cement, the various nature of cement. C wants to purchase certain nature of cement. He does not know who will manufacture this kind of cement. There is A who actually manufactures this kind of cement. I am B who knows A as well as C. Now I act as an intermediary and connect A and C and then get a commission. In this case, I am an intermediary. I hope you are able to appreciate this. In the second case, I am acting as an agent and I facilitate some services between A and C or supply of goods between A and C. In the first case that I told, I am facilitating no doubt, but I am not doing it as an agent. I am doing it on my own basis. I am doing it on my own account. It is not that I am doing it on behalf of someone. I am doing it on my own account. Whereas in the second case, I was doing this service on behalf of A or on behalf of C. In the first case, I am not doing it on any person's behalf. I am doing it on principal basis. Just a minute. Sorry, work or is it? So therefore, this is the difference between principal to principal basis and principal to agent basis. If I want to qualify as an intermediary, there has to be the relationship of principal to principal, principal to agent basis and not principal to principal basis. I think I have given two examples for this intermediary service. Let us see that. I have given the definition of intermediary. Intermediary means a broker, an agent, or any other person by whatever name called, who arranges or facilitates the supply of goods or services of both or securities between two or more persons, but does not include a person who supplies such goods or services on both or securities on his own account. So the accounting services, I am doing it on my own account. I am not doing on behalf of anyone. So I've given a few examples. I would request you to see those examples. Let us come to the next provision. Here and after, what are we going to see will be unique provision with respect to section 13 alone. Online information and database access or retrieval services. If one can recollect, when we were discussing section 24 of CGST Act, compulsory registration, we actually touched upon this particular online information and database access or retrieval services, where we saw the person who is providing online information and database access and retrieval services has to compulsorily register. We will call those services as OIDAR services here in after. The place of supply has been very easily given. They say place of supply of OIDAR service is the location of recipient of service. They are given so simply. Place of supply is location of recipient of service. I will tell you what is the complication. Before that, I will give you examples of OIDAR. Example number 1. You all download many games from Google Play Store. You play those games. Now some games are paid games. You pay some amount to the developer. In those cases, you download the game, you play that game, you pay some money. You can play that game from anywhere in the world. It is not that only in India you can play the game. You go to UK, you can play the game. Go to US, you can play the same game. So therefore, you are the consumer. At which place you consume the goods is extremely difficult to identify. They have simply said place of supply will be the location of recipient of service. Where is the recipient located? I might be located in India today, tomorrow I can go to US, tomorrow I can go to UK. So therefore, it is extremely difficult to identify the location of recipient for OADER services. Like let us give one more example. You know this Acrobat Reader, you can normally download it for free, but there's a paid version where you can do editing of the PDF documents. Let us assume you go for the paid version. Again, you can use this paid version from any place that you want. You go to USA, you can use it. You go to UK, you can use it. So therefore, on this OEDR services, if you look at, it is extremely difficult to identify both the persons. In fact, supplier also it is difficult to identify. Recipient also it is difficult to identify. How can you know? See, if some game app is there, how do you know that from where the server is, located, from where the supplier is located? So therefore, the entire OIDR services in itself is a very, I would say it's a very big topic to discuss, right? As of now, we will restrict our discussion only with respect to place of supply, right? We will not go to the aspect of location of the supplier. We will restrict our discussion to place of supply. Place of supply, they say location of recipient of service. As I told you, there will be a difficulty in identifying location of recipient of service. Therefore, there are parameters laid down to identify whether the location of recipient is in taxable territory or non-taxable territory. So what they have done is, as I told you, it is difficult to identify the location of recipient. So they say you can conclude that the location of recipient is taxable territory if you are satisfying certain conditions, or if you do not satisfy these conditions, then the location of recipient of service will be non-taxable territory. Accordingly, place of supply will be either taxable territory or non-taxable territory. So you have to satisfy 2 conditions out of 7 conditions in order to classify or conclude that the location of recipient is in taxable territory. I'm repeating it again. There are 7 conditions given. Out of the 7 conditions, if you satisfy 2 conditions, then the location of recipient is deemed to be in taxable territory. We will see what are those conditions. Condition number 1: recipient gives an Indian address on the internet. So you download a game. If at all, if you are making payment, if it asks for your address, if you give an Indian address, then you will satisfy this condition A. B, payment is settled by Indian credit card or debit card or other card. So for making this payment, you use Indian debit card or credit card. In this case, you will be satisfying clause B as well. If you satisfy A and B, then fine. There is the matter. You are deemed to be, that is this service which is performed, this online app which is provided to a particular person. For this transaction, the place of supply will be deemed to be location in India, because location of recipient is deemed to be in India. Let us assume you do not satisfy A, B. Come to C. The recipient has an Indian billing address. So for billing purposes, he will obviously ask you the place of residence. Your address will be given. If the address is Indian billing address, then you will satisfy clause C. D, the computer or other device used by the recipient has an Indian IP address. So you do this transaction using a computer, right? So this computer has an IP address, and that IP address is an Indian IP address, then you will satisfy D. E, the recipient uses an Indian bank account for payment. So other than credit card or debit card, you use an Indian bank account for payment, then you satisfy E. Then F, the country code for the subscriber identity module card used by the recipient of services is of India. SIM card, you know, there will be common code for Indian country, Indian region. There will be common code for South Africa, Australia, etc. We have 91 as a common code, right? If your country code of your SIM card is 91, then it will be, you are satisfying F also. Last one, the recipient receives the service through an Indian fixed landline. So therefore, there could be some services which can be received through fixed circuit or leased circuit or whatever it is. Whenever the services are received through fixed landline, then if you actually using an Indian fixed landline, then you satisfy this condition. from condition A to G, if you satisfy even 2 conditions out of A to G, then it is deemed that the location of recipient is in the taxable territory. Accordingly, place of supply will be taxable territory. I hope you are able to understand and appreciate this. Let us move on. Now, let us move on to the next provision. We are almost in the last subsection with respect to section 30. With this, we are done with place of supply. We can move on to TDS, TCS, and tax invoice. Right? Performance-based service. This is again unique with respect to section 13. This you wouldn't have seen in section 12. Right? For all these services, I'll give you only examples. Services requiring physical presence of goods. Let us say, since this season of COVID, let us say a medicine has to be tested. Right? There is a company located outside India. It wants to test a medicine whether it will be effective for COVID or not. What it does is it sends significant quantities of drugs to a person located in India. Your responsibility is to check whether or do a trial, clinical trial, and to test whether these particular goods are fit for human consumption and it won't have any side effects. So therefore, you provide a service on some goods which require physical presence of those goods. Right? I'm repeating it again. You are providing some service, okay, but the service require physical presence of goods. For doing clinical trial, do you necessarily require the tablet or not, or the medicine physical requirement of medicine is required or not? In such cases, the place of supply will be the place where the service is actually performed. Right? So therefore, just a minute. All right. So for those services which require physical presence of goods, in those cases, the place of supply will always be the place where services are actually performed. Next one. But there are few exceptions. Exceptions for what? Exceptions for a case where services are provided, where physical presence of goods are required, but then the place of supply will not be the place where the services are actually performed, it will be some other place. So as a general rule, whenever you provide service on goods which require physical presence, the place of supply will always be the location of, the place where the services are actually performed. There are few exceptions. We will see those exceptions. There are some issues with respect to the network. Yeah, exception number 1. Again, with an example, I will tell you. Let us assume I export some goods. Let's say I am engaged in, let us say I am a soap manufacturer. I export, okay, not soap manufacturer. Let us say I am a manufacturer of laptops. I manufacture laptop. I export laptop to foreign countries. And that laptop has 1 year warranty. Now, let us say some laptop has some issues. So the foreign customer is sending back the laptop to me for repairs. In this case, we go by the definition of this particular provision, services requiring physical presence of good. So physical presence of laptop is certainly required for me to repair that particular hardware issue. But since it is getting covered under this section, this is covered under exception to this main provision. Normally, the place of supply will be the place where services are actually performed. Since this is getting covered under exception, the place of supply will be the location of the recipient, if this is available. Location of supplier, if location of recipient is not available. So let us read now, you understand. Services supplied in respect of goods that are temporarily imported in India for repairs. So I am importing the laptop temporarily into India for repairs. After repairs, again I will re-export it outside India. In this case, though it's a service which requires physical presence of goods, that is laptop, the place of supply will not be the place where service is actually performed, that is India. The place of supply will be location of the recipient, right? And repairs or any for any other treatment or process. One more example for the same exception. Exception number 1. Let us assume I am a job worker. We know who is a job worker. A person who is located abroad is sending me, let us say, engine. I have to do some process on the engine and I have to fit it in particular vehicle and then send it back to the importer. Or send it back to the person who from whom I imported the engine. So therefore, what I do not purchase anything. I import the engine. Okay, I do some activity on the engine. After doing that, I will mount that engine on a particular vehicle and send back to the foreign person. In this case, I am not purchasing anything. I am doing. Let us read now. You understand. You will be able to correlate it. Services supplied in respect of goods for any other treatment or process. I am certainly doing something in respect of goods which requires physical presence of goods, but I am doing any treatment or process. I am doing some treatment and process and then mounting the engine on a vehicle and then sending back. In this case, it's also getting covered under this provision, but since it is given an exception, the place of supply will be location of the recipient. The recipient location is not available, then location of supplier. So therefore, obviously, once this job work is done, will I export it outside India? Certainly, I will export it outside India after treatment or process, right? So therefore, the first exception to performance-based service, where physical presence of goods is required, is job work and your repairs and maintenance for temporary purposes. Moving on. Services supplied, again second exception for the rule that the performance, the place where performance is done is the place of supply, exception to that particular rule. Services supplied in respect of goods that are provided from a remote location by electronic means. Your classic case of all your software related services where you need not even get that laptop or something. You can from India, you can do all the repairs, etc. if to a person who is located abroad. So services supplied in respect of goods. He has a software that are provided from a remote location by electronic means. You just ask him to come in a team viewer or something like that. You just resolve the issue. So therefore, for that case, location where goods are situated at the time of supply of service. So that software is located at the CD is there in USA. I do a service in respect of that particular CD sitting here. So therefore, services supplied in respect of goods that are provided from a remote location by electronic means. For that, the place of supply will be the location of the goods where it is situated. So therefore, to summarize, section 13.3 says, normally whenever you do some service on goods which require physical presence, the place of supply will always be the place where services are performed. But there are few exceptions. Exception number 1 is international job work, where some goods are sent to me. After doing some process, I will re-export it. Example number 2, where goods comes to me, I will do some repairs and resend it to the originating country. The last exception being, I provide some service in respect of a software, and that software I do not physically import it. I do it from a remote location through electronic means. For that, the place of supply will be location of goods. The last one, with this we are done with section 13.3 as well. Services supplied to an individual which require the physical presence of the recipient. In that case, the place of supply will be the location where services actually perform. This is very simple. Let's say I go to United States of America. I do some plastic surgery. Now, in this case, plastic surgery cannot be performed just by me sitting in India. My physical presence is required there. So therefore, services supplied to an individual which require the physical presence of the recipient. Likewise, a person who is located outside India can come to some other healthcare service in India. So whenever you want to do some service to a recipient who is otherwise located outside India, but for providing this service, his physical presence is required in India. In those cases, the place of supply will be the location where service is actually performed. I have given a lot of examples explaining various provisions. With this, we are done with place of supply. We have time. We will extend this class till 10:30 since we started at 7:30. I think we will be able to complete TDS, TCS, and tax invoice because those are very small chapters. Let us take 2 to 3 minutes break and then come for. We will start with TDS, TCS. It's a very small chapter, an important chapter, but from the exam's perspective, we'll quickly complete that and then move on to tax invoice payment. See you back in 3 minutes time. Welcome back. Let us now start with TDS and TCS. Let us quickly complete that, probably 15-20 minutes time. Though it takes very little time, but from exams perspective, the importance is around, in terms of marks, let us say 4 to 6 marks. And in objective types, there is a very good chance that they might test TDS and TCS. So therefore, I would request you to carefully listen to our discussion. Okay. So in fact, for TDS TCS chapter, what I have actually done is, I have actually shared the study material, institute study material. So for a reason, since 1 mark has been asked, I would request you to go to the entire chapter. For the purpose of discussion, the main concepts and how problems can be asked in the examination, that all we will see. But I would request you to go through the entire study material, and if you have any clarification, you can come back. So let me share the notes for TDS and TCS. Yes. So in fact, initially also I told you that for some chapters, institute does not go beyond your study material. One of the chapters is this, but problems wise they have certainly asked some application oriented problems. I have actually included those in practice problems. Maybe that is separate. But for the sake of objective types, I have just started the study material so that you once go to the study material, right? Let us start with TDS and TCS. Let us first complete TDS, right? Now, let us study this logically. First of all, who should be the supplier? Who should be the recipient? Will be the first question. In the sense, if at all someone has to deduct tax, who has to deduct tax? Who is the deductor? Who is the deductee? We will start with the deductor. As per GST law, who is liable to deduct tax? Then we will see who are the deductees, for which payments I have to deduct tax, and is there any exception with respect to applicability? Okay, so first let us start with the deductor. Who has to deduct TDS? Okay, as so, if you could recollect this, we discussed under section 24 as well. A person who is liable to deduct tax at source under section 51 is liable to be registered compulsorily under the GST law. So therefore, compulsory registration, if you are getting covered under section 51, let us first see who is liable to deduct tax. There are broadly 4 persons who are liable to deduct tax. First is your central government or state government or establishment. Second is local authority. Third is governmental agencies. The last one is notified persons. They have notified certain categories of persons. We will see that in a moment's time. So therefore, 4 categories: central government, state government, local authority, governmental agencies, notified persons. So therefore, all government-oriented persons are liable to deduct tax under 51. So we all know who is central government, state government, local authority, you know, governmental agencies, yes, we will see for those. Notified persons, yes, there are notified persons. We will see that. Let us look at the notified persons. So the last category we saw that some notified category of persons has to deduct tax. Who are the notified persons? So notified persons are as follows. The following persons have been notified under clause B of subsection 1 of 51 of CDS Act with central government. 1. An authority or a board or any other body set up by an act of parliament or state legislature. So any body set up, for example, LIC. LIC is a body set up by an act of parliament. In fact, your CA institute, you would have seen in all study material, set up by an act of parliament, set up by an act of parliament. So therefore, any authority which is set up by an act of parliament or state legislature will be a notified entity. So these entities are notified by the government. So for these entities, TDS will be applicable. So first notified person is an authority or board set up by an act of parliament. Second, an authority or a board established by any government. So government established bodies with 51% or more participation by way of equity or control to carry out any function. So it is not enough that it is established by government, but government should have at least 51% or more equity shares in that particular entity, right? So therefore, notified authorities are: one, authority set up by an act of parliament; second, an authority established by the government with 51% or more participation, right? So the question was, there was one issue which came up with respect to interpretation. The issue was whether this 51% is applicable only for established by any government, in any government, or is it also applicable to set up an act of parliament as well. So if a body is set up by an act of parliament, in that body also should 51% or more control should be there, or only for those authorities which are actually established by government, 51% is sufficient. The answer is for both these things, 51% is mandatory. That is what this circular clarifies. It is clarified that rider of 51% or more by way of equity or control is applicable to both items 1 and 2. Thus, the provisions of section 51 are applicable only to such authority or board or any other body set up by an act of parliament or state legislature or established by government, in which 51% or more participation by way of equity or control is with the government. See, the reason why I am discussing this notified persons and all, in examination they test this also. They give you some entity established by government where less than 50% of equity will be held or 15% of equity will be held. So therefore, for those entities, TDS obligation is not there, right? So this is the first notified person. Second notified person, society established by central government or state government or local authority under Societies Registration Act 1860. You have seen lot of societies, Tamil Nadu Cooperative Society, and central government level there are a lot of societies. So those societies which are established by central government or state government under the Societies Regulation Act 1860. Last one, public sector undertakings. So all the public sector undertakings are notified persons. So there were 4 categories of notified persons. One is central government or state government. Second is your local authority. Last category is your notified person. Third is a government agency. There are 4 categories of notified person. One is an authority established by government or authority set up by an act of parliament with 15% or more participation. Second is society established in the Societies Act. Third is a public sector undertaking. All these persons are liable to deduct tax at source, right? So therefore, answer to the first question. They probably not that way. Notes I thought. So I will tell you how you have to. You can actually prepare notes on your own. First is applicability. First, liability to deduct. Who has to deduct? You can put 4 brackets. One is central government, state government, local authority, like that. So therefore, I will tell you how the chart should look like after completing this particular question. So first we saw who is liable to deduct tax. Okay. Let us move on to the categories of persons not liable to deduct tax. So first we have seen who are liable to deduct tax. Now we will see who are not liable to deduct tax. Tax is not liable to be deducted in the following cases: where goods or services are supplied from a public sector unit to another public sector unit. Second, whether when supply of goods and services takes place between one person and another person, specified in clauses A, B, C, and D of 51 of CGST. Very simple. If a transaction is between the central government, state government, the transaction is between, let us say, local authority, or between central government and local authority, between public sector undertaking, whoever is liable to deduct tax, if they undertake any transaction between themselves, then TDS is not applicable. Only if they do it to outsiders, then TDS is applicable. So therefore, these categories are not liable to deduct tax. So we understood who are liable to deduct, who is liable to deduct tax. We have also understood who is not liable to deduct tax. So this is with respect to deductor. Next, we have to understand who are deductees, right? Deductees are the suppliers whose total value of supply of taxable goods or services under a contract, underline the word contract and highlight it, exceeds 2.5 lakhs, exclusive of tax and cess as per the invoice. Very, very important. They are defining who are the deductees. They say deductees are those suppliers whose total value of supply of taxable goods or services under a contract exceeds 2.5 lakhs exclusive of tax and cess. This we need to understand necessarily with a written example. Let us see this with an illustration. Just a minute. Yeah. So the provision said TDS is applicable when the supplier supplies goods or services under a contract for more than 2.5 lakhs. Let us take some example. X Limited entered into a contract with, let us say, central government. Contract value is equal to 5 lakhs. Okay. Now, I perform this particular service over a period of time. Let us say I perform this service over a period of 10 months. Each month I raise an invoice of 50,000. Let us say this contract is entered on 1st January 2020. On 1st February 2020, I raise an invoice. Invoice for 50,000. Right? The question is, when central government makes this payment of 50,000 to X Limited, TDS applicable or not? Absolutely applicable. The provision looks to the contract value. So therefore, contract value alone is necessary. It does not matter whether your invoice value is 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, etc. In fact, let us assume there was one more. Okay, let us change the example. X Limited, okay, enter into a contract with central government. Okay, the contract value is 2 lakhs. Okay, it had already entered into a contract with the central government in the previous year contract. Contract values, let us say 1 lakh. Okay, so this is entered on 1/1/2020. This is entered on 1/1/2019. So two contracts has been entered into by X Limited with the central government. One is for 2 lakhs, one is for 1 lakh. I raise an invoice for 2.75 lakhs on 1st February 2020. In this case, should TDS be applicable? TDS is absolutely not applicable. Again, contract value is less than 2.5 lakhs. Contract value is less than 2.5 lakhs. So therefore, the learning is you should be bothered only about the contract value and not the invoice value. Contract value is alone important. Invoice value can be completely ignored. This is point number 1. Point number 2, they also talk about value of services, supply of goods or services, excluding taxes, which means you'll ignore your CGST, SGST, etc. That is also one more point. The significance of contract value is what I discussed now. Let us move on to the general discussion. So therefore, deductees are the suppliers whose total value of supply of taxable goods or services under a contract exceeds 2.5 lakhs. Also underline the word value of supply of taxable goods. If it is an exempt goods, whether TDS will apply? No. So therefore, value of supply of taxable goods should exceed 2.5 lakhs. Again, that's one more point which you have to understand. Non-taxable goods, if we supply, TDS is not applicable. The next question is, sir, I have identified who is a deductor. I know who is a deductee. Now the question is, at what percentage should the TDS be deducted? The rate of tax of TDS is 1% of the payment. So whatever payment, so therefore contract value is say 3 lakhs. Invoice value I raise it 50,000, 50,000. So whenever I make the payment, as and when I make the payment, TDS has to be deducted, right? So 1% of the payment made to the supplier of taxable value of goods or services, where the total value of such supply under a contract exceeds 2.5 lakhs. So while calculating this 2.5 lakhs, you will ignore CGST, SGST, IGST, etc. So which means, okay, this again people make mistake. Let us say the total contract value is 2.6 lakhs. This 2.6 lakhs will be inclusive of GST. Now, if you backward, let us say the GST is, let's say 18%. If you backward the value of supply, excluding CGST, it will be significantly lesser than 2.5 lakhs. So therefore, this 2.5 lakhs, you have to exclude the tax component. The remaining component alone will be there for the, will be taken for the purpose of calculation of TDS. Let us move on. So, for information, this 1% is CGST. Therefore, SGST is also one more percentage. Therefore, 2% is the effective rate of TDS, right? Like how we saw for composition, 1% plus 1%, right? Next, under certain circumstances, TDS will not be applicable. We've already seen when the transaction is happening between the public sector undertaking or between central government, state government, TDS is not applicable. There is one more scenario which has been contemplated under TDS. Listen to it very carefully. This you might certainly miss out, right? The proviso to 51 lays down that where the location of the supplier and the place of supply is in a state or union territory which is different from the state or union territory of registration of the recipient, there will be no TDS. We should read it very, very slowly in order to get the grip over this particular point. It says location of the supplier, place of supply is in a state which is different from state or union territory of the registration of the recipient. Very, very simple. Compare the registration of the recipient, compare the state of the registration of the recipient, and also see whether the location of the supplier and the place of supply is in a same state. Now, let us take an example and understand. Or they have themselves given some example. Probably we can go this. So you have to identify the location of the supplier and the place of supply. That should be in one state, right? The location of the recipient should be in some other state. Let us assume I supply goods to, let us say, whoever has joined us, send good morning, let us take one name. Let us say Ganesha Murthy and I enter into contract. Okay, let's say Ganesha Murthy is government. Okay, myself is a private company. Now, Ganesha Murthy has to deduct tax. Right? In this case, I am supplying goods to Ganesha Murthy. Location of the supplier is Chennai. Let us assume for a moment, place of supply is also Chennai, because Ganesha Murthy is coming to my premise and getting the goods. Therefore, 10.1 subsection A, 10.1 cross A will apply, where movement of goods terminates for delivery to recipient at my premise. Therefore, location of supply is in Chennai, place of supply is in Chennai. Let us assume Ganesha Murthy is located in Karnataka. So, location of recipient is Karnataka. In this case, TDS won't apply. Except for this case, all the permutation combination TDS will apply. All the permutation combination they are given here. The first combination, supplier location, place of supply, recipient same state. No, not applicable. Recipient location should be some other state. Supplier location and place of supply should be one state. Okay, so therefore A TDS will be applicable. Second, supplier as well as place of supply on different states. No, supplier and place of supply should be one state. Recipient location should be some other state. So therefore TDS is applicable. Next, supplier as well as place of supply in state A and recipient in state B. This is a typical case where TDS is not applicable. So therefore, to summarize, when TDS is not applicable, when the location of the supplier and the place of supply is in the same state and the recipient location is in some other state, in that case alone, the provisions of TDS will not be applicable. As I told you, value of supply will not include your CGST, SGST, etc. You have to deposit the TDS by 10th of the succeeding month. You should also give your TDS certificate to the detective. Those things I'm not going into, you can just have a look at it. So if you do not furnish a certificate, there are some fines and penalties. Those things I would request you to see. So one point I want to communicate with respect to TDS, how this mechanism is. Okay, it is similar to income tax 26 AS. See what happens is so let us continue the same example. I supply goods to Ganesh. Now, if Ganesh is deducting tax at source, what will happen is whatever amount he deducted at source, he will deposit to the government. Once he deposits to the government, it will automatically get reflected in the electronic cash ledger. What is electronic cash ledger? It is the sum of deposits of taxes that I made. So once, since this is my sale value only, right? On my on my sale value only, it is deducting. Like your 26 AS, it will get reflected in my electronic cash ledger. So therefore, whatever amount of tax is deducted at source by the recipient will be reflected in your electronic cash ledger. Let us move on to TCS. Now TCS, let me take the note and try to explain to you because slightly tricky. Okay, let me take an example and explain you. Probably what we can do is once we are done with the example, we can move on to we can just have a look at it, the notes. Let me take a note. Now, before that, certain important points with respect to e-commerce operator you have to understand. Okay, I did not teach elaborately when I was discussing this concept called as compulsory registration. If one can recollect the compulsory registration, section 24 had this provision, which said every e-commerce operator has to register, right, under GST law. This is what section 24 said. It also said suppliers supplying through e-commerce operator other than 9(5) e-commerce operator is liable to register. In fact, one student asked me a doubt also, very good doubt actually that was. Okay, so the second part that I wrote, you may not understand. Let me clarify what it is. There are two kinds of e-commerce operators. Before that, there are three kinds of charges under GST law. Listen to it very carefully. Forward charge, section 9, subsection 1, reverse charge 9 subsection 3 and 9 subsection 4, special charge. Okay, listen to me very, very carefully. There are 3 types of charges under GST law. One is a forward charge, second is a reverse charge, third is a special charge. Under forward charge mechanism, it is the supplier who is liable to pay tax. We all know that. Under reverse charge mechanism, it is the recipient who will make the payment of tax. There is something called a special charge where neither the supplier nor the recipient will pay tax. There will be some person called as notified e-commerce operator will pay tax. I am repeating it again. Unlike your forward charge or reverse charge, neither the supplier will pay tax nor the recipient will pay tax. There will be a third person who will pay tax. Examples of that, there are 3 notified e-commerce operator. One, passenger transportation service, where Uber, where there is a driver, there is a customer. Driver actually is a supplier. He is the recipient. If it's a forward charge, supplier will pay. If it's a reverse charge, recipient will pay. But since Uber is a notified e-commerce operator, neither the supplier will pay tax nor the recipient will pay tax. Uber will pay tax. Uber is an e-commerce operator who is notified under section 9.5. Likewise, there are 2 more e-commerce operator which are notified, your IVBO, etc., who provide hotel accommodation services. IVBO does not provide hotel accommodation services. They only facilitate you through IVBO. There will be a hotel called as, let's say which hotel? ITC. Okay, now you can book ITC through IVBO, and I am the person who is going to stay, customer. ITC is a supplier, customer is the recipient, but neither ITC will pay tax nor customer will pay tax, IVBO will pay tax. Third, your urban club who comes to your home, repairs, does AC repairs and all, etc. So there, the person who is doing plumbing service or other service will be supplier. Okay, supplier. We are the customer, recipient. He won't pay tax, he won't pay tax, urban club will pay tax. So therefore, please understand there is something called a special charge under GST, where neither the supplier will pay tax nor the recipient will pay tax. E-commerce operator will pay tax. And please understand, this is the most crucial point. Not all e-commerce operator will pay tax. Only notified e-commerce operator will pay tax. Why this is relevant? Because your Flipkart, Amazon are also e-commerce operator, but they will never ever pay tax because they are not notified e-commerce operator. So under 9.5, who are liable to pay tax? Only those who are notified e-commerce operator. This point you have to understand. Once you have understood it, let us move on. The reason why I discuss this is the compulsory registration provision says, with respect to e-commerce operator, all e-commerce operator will register. Whether Uber, Flipkart, Amazon, doesn't matter. But when it comes to persons who are supplying through e-commerce operator, please be very careful. It is not all suppliers who are supplying through e-commerce operator. Those suppliers other than 9.5 e-commerce operator. This is 9.5. This is section 9, subsection 5. If a person is supplying through notified e-commerce operator, then those suppliers who are supplying to notified e-commerce operator need not register. For them, 20 lakhs threshold is applicable. In fact, I gave one problem where this point was tested. Okay, only to clarify that, I discussed this. Of course, there is also some more relevance in what we are going to discuss. Now let us come to TCS. TCS applicability. Right? We know who's e-commerce operator, who's an e-commerce operator. E-commerce operator is a person who either owns, manages, or operates a digital or electronic facility. Okay, I'll give you 2 examples. You tell me whether e-commerce operator This person is covered under e-commerce operator. A Limited. Okay. A Limited. B Limited. A Limited owns a website. Let us say it is in the business of soap manufacture. Okay. B Limited. I'll come to B Limited. Owns a website. It owns a website. It does two kinds of sales. One is a offline sale. Second one online sale. So which means you can go to the website of A Limited. You can place an order. It will be delivered to your home. Is A Limited an e-commerce operator or not? Is the question. I'm repeating it again. A Limited is a soap manufacturer who owns a website. He does two kinds of sales. One is through online mode through his website. Second is through offline mode. It does both. Whether A Limited is an e-commerce operator? Absolutely yes. Because he owns an e-commerce platform. He's an e-commerce operator. Okay. B Limited. B Limited does not engage in supply of goods or services. What it does is, if you want to purchase shirts or any other garments, you can place an order in B Limited. There are like Flipkart. Okay, let's take B Limited as Flipkart. So there will be one supplier, there will be one customer, there will be this platform, e-commerce platform or a website. There is this website. Customer will place an order in this website. Supplier, after the order is placed, will supply through this e-commerce operator or through this website. So therefore, he is certainly an e-commerce operator. In this case, we all know he is an e-commerce operator. Now, why am I discussing this? This scenario, there is no question of TCS applicability. This scenario, we have to see whether TCS is applicable or not. So, in a case where I supply through my own website or I supply through my own app, TCS will not be applicable. Only when I facilitate, that is, there are three persons involved, where one person is called as an e-commerce operator, there is supplier, there is recipient. In that case alone, your TCS is applicable. And here also, in not all cases TCS is applicable. I will divide this category into two. Okay. Now, so B Limited is an e-commerce operator. Let us assume he is facilitating supply of goods or services through its website. There are two options. One, B Limited can collect money from Mr. Let us say Ram. Ram is placing an order in B Limited. Okay. He is collecting money from Ram. He will deduct his commission and remit it to, let's say, X Limited. X Limited is a supplier. B Limited is an e-commerce operator. B Limited collects money from Ram. Once it collects money, it will remit it to X Limited. This is scenario one. Next scenario. B Limited will not collect any money. Ram can directly remit amount to X Limited. So both these scenarios are getting covered under e-commerce operator. In case one, this is also e-commerce operator. Consideration for the contract is received by the e-commerce operator and then remitted to the supplier. In case two, consideration is not at all collected by B Limited. It is directly collected by X Limited. Ram is directly remitting it to X Limited. In case one, TCS is applicable. Sorry, there is some issue with the note. That's why a lot of scratches. In case one, TCS is very much applicable. Case two, TCS is not applicable, which means applicability of TCS will wholly depend on whether the e-commerce operator is collecting the consideration for that facilitation service. For example, Flipkart, Amazon, when you order something, you will pay only to the Flipkart or Amazon. Amazon or Flipkart in turn will make the payment to the supplier. So therefore, Amazon or Flipkart has to collect tax at source, right? I hope this is clear. Okay, so therefore applicability, as far as applicability is concerned, only if consideration is received by the e-commerce operator, the applicability of TDS comes into force. If the consideration is not collected, does not apply. And the main point that we understood is, if I am supplying my goods through an e-commerce portal or through an app, TCS, there is no question of TCS at all. TCS should necessarily involve 3 persons. So let us now go on to provisions of TCS. I think we will not complete tax invoice. We will close with TCS and TDS. So what I will do is I will change the video name wherever it is misleading, because today it is given as TDS, TCS, and tax invoice, but we have discussed place of supply and TCS. I will change the name accordingly. And what I'm planning to do is I also put the minutes, from which minute to which minute one topic was discussed. That also I put it in the description. That I'll do it in days time. Okay. So now read TCS. TCS referred to the tax, which is collected by the e-commerce operator when a supplier supplies some goods or services through its portal, and the payment for that supply is collected by e-commerce operator. So in the example that I gave, Flipkart is an e-commerce operator. A person is supplying through Flipkart. For that supply, the payment is collected by Flipkart. In this case, TCS is applicable, right? So therefore, this is the respect to TCS applicability. The next question is the rate. TDS is 1% plus 1%, whereas TCS is 0.5% plus 0.5%, totally 1%. Okay, so percentage of TDS is 1%. The question is, on what value is TCS applicable? In fact, this point I also discussed. It is a common point for TDS as well as TCS. With this, we will close for the day. On what value is TDS or TCS applicable? The value is net value of taxable supplies. What is net value of taxable supplies? Let us assume I supply goods worth, let us say, 1 lakh through Amazon for the month of, let us say, June 2020. Out of the total 1 lakh rupees, goods worth 20,000 are returned by the customer, sales return. In this case, should TCS be made applicable on 1 lakh rupees or 80,000? The answer is 80,000, because you have to take the net value of taxable supply. Net value of taxable supply is equal to total taxable supply minus sales return. Okay, that is what is given in this particular table. Taxable supplies minus return to the suppliers. Now, one more point you have to understand. Even for TCS, the same provision will apply. Let us say, for the month of June, total value of goods supplied is 1 lakh. Again, 30,000 is returned to the government. Sorry, 30,000 is returned by the government on account of deficiency. In this case also, TDS will be applicable on 70,000 and not on 1 lakh. So the value on which TDS or TCS has to be applied is the value of net value of taxable supplies. So you have to compute net value on that. Only 1% or 2%, as the case may be, has to be applied. So we are not able to complete full. Of course, we have done with TCS and TDS. We are not able to complete tax invoice debit and credit note. We will certainly complete it in the next class, right? So next class we will complete tax invoice debit and credit note. In fact, tax invoice debit and credit note, 50% of the portions are done actually. How? When we discuss time of supply, we saw section 31, right? Same provisions will be repeated in this particular tax invoice. Once we are done with tax invoice, we will start with the subsequent chapters. In the meantime, today, since there was some issue with the broadcast yesterday, broadcast messages, I will share the practice problems for ITC. Once we are done with section 17 problems, we can also discuss your capital goods related problems. So let us see tomorrow morning 7 a.m. right? Hopefully there should not be any network issue. We will start by 7 a.m. Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.